In the late 1950s, scientists accidentally discovered something that wasn't meant to exist. It was dubbed the frequency. The frequency works on a basis that prolonged exposure increases the signs of the symptoms of paranoid anxiety. For example, someone who's exposed for 10 minutes would have less indications than a person exposed for 1 hour. This frequency was kept secret. Should it be revealed, quite a bit of hysteria could be stirred up. Naturally, the scientists responsible for the frequency felt it necessary to test its effects on humans. The first test, which lasted about 20 minutes, showed no immediate effects, with the exception of some acute anxiety. Test 2 lasted 2 hours long. After going past the 20-minute mark, the subject seemed anxious, as observed in the previous test. For this test, the scientists took extra measures and strapped the subject to a chair. The test continued. After 45 minutes have passed, the subject seemed agitated. They stated they were being bothered by some kind of fog in front of their eyes. We acknowledged the individual's discomposure, while at the same time took notes on the effects of the frequencies inducing symptoms. 1 hour and 15 minutes on the timer, the subject appeared more distressed. The subject was constantly moaning and whining while showing signs of delusion. The subject constantly darted his head around the soundproof room at random intervals. About 20 minutes later, the subject began to weep. When questioned by one of the scientists, he complained that these shadowy figures were standing in the fog. It should also be mentioned that the subject stopped moving around to stare at the wall the chair was facing. 15 minutes left on the timer. The subject suddenly broke into full panic mode. They started rocking and making frantic facial gestures towards the scientists, begging them to end their suffering. They were constantly blathering that the shadows were walking from the fog, that they were going to take them. 30 seconds left to tick away. The subject's spastic movements freed them from their prison. They sprinted out of the test room. Before the scientists could stop them, the subject snatched a scalpel from a surgical table and grabbed the scientist nearest to him. The subject proceeded to drag the blade across the scientist's throat, ending their life. The subject then dug the scalpel into his own eyes and removed them from their sockets in an attempt to rid himself of the images. Naturally, the tests were scrapped and the research was buried deep in the archives. I put your life at risk by waiting this long to tell you. You see, this so-called frequency is a low and loud hum. One cannot listen to it for too long. Although it's probably too late, considering the time you spent on this site trying to scare yourself. You're soon to experience what real fear is. Let's review the facts. It is generated in a place which would cause mass panic if discovered. Makes you feel fear and anxiety, and makes a low, loud hum. All seems pretty damning conclusive to me, but wait. What's that sound coming from your computer?